What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This will be our first mock draft of the 2024 offseason. It's May 4th right now, so we're getting our first mock draft done in early May, and we'll be doing several more throughout the course of the rest of the offseason. But kind of cool, actually. We've actually got a full mock draft room here. I'm just doing this mock draft on ESPN. I'll hop around on different platforms and stuff as we go. Make sure I'm touching on all of them, but it's really cool seeing that we've actually got enough people that I'm not going to be drafting with too many computers here. So super cool. This draft will be a 12-team PPR mock draft. I'm drafting from the 11 spot, so it'll be fun. I'll try and mix around where I'm drafting from and stuff and all that as we go as well, just so that we've got enough variety. But should be a lot of fun and just sort of fun to see how our first mock draft turns out. So I'll sort of talk through all the players that I'm looking at, what I'm expecting for them going into the 2024 season and sort of discuss how I'm sort of evaluating draft strategy and all that as well. So should be a lot of fun. On top of that, I've started going about putting out my projections. About a quarter of the way done statting things out, so I imagine by next weekend sometime, I would expect to have my rankings up on the website, and I'll adjust those as we get more and more news. But really cool, really fun getting players statted out and just sort of see where things are going to end up landing. So should be a lot of fun. This draft will start here in 1 minute, and I'll just sort of talk through it as we go. Picking from the 11 spot, it looks like we're probably going to be staring down the barrel of a guy like Kyron Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think those are really good options. I personally would lean Jahmyr Gibbs over Kyron in that situation. As far as the receivers go, not super in love with any of the options. Obviously, if Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra is there, I would definitely pounce on that. I know Jefferson's a little scary. I'm probably playing with a rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold. Probably going to see some of both of them. Maybe we just see... It's possible to see McCarthy start week 1, but I would currently anticipate that we see at least both quarterbacks at some point this season. Obviously, a quarterback downgrade for him over compared to Kirk Cousins, but Justin Jefferson he's an alpha. He's an elite wide receiver. It's going to be totally fine. He was great last season, even when Kirk Cousins was hurt, so I'm not worried about him at all. There's that noise. My bad. I'll eventually get that muted before all these mock drafts start. I know I kind of left that volume on for a lot of drafts last season, so I'll try not to do that. So we saw Christian McCaffrey go 101. That's obviously no shocker. He is the best player in fantasy football. If he's healthy, he's going to be the number 1 running back in fantasy again, probably. So got to take him. Tyreek and CD going 2 and 3 makes a lot of sense. We're going to see a lot of receivers, I think, at the top of drafts this year. I know that the ADP doesn't necessarily show that right now. I see we still got Breece Hall and Bijan. Those top 3 for sure are going to go really high between McCaffrey, Bijan, and Breece Hall. Those are elite assets. They're going to be great this season. But after that, I think you could make a case for picking a lot of receivers before you get to the running back 4. So kind of fun seeing that. While we still have Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson on the board, even after pick 5, still on the board. So people are really excited about wide receivers this season. Sort of what I was feeling was going to happen. We saw that running backs sort of burned a lot of people last year. There's just generally a shift towards drafting wide receivers after a year where wide receivers perform at a high level, and I think it's really easy to do that. But there we go. Now we've got our top 8 gone. We just saw Breece Hall and Bijan go 7 and 8. Jonathan Taylor available right now. I don't love it necessarily. We haven't seen him play with Anthony Richardson yet. I'm not super scared of it because I do think that Anthony Richardson's going to be really good for that offense, but I think of the guys here, I'm probably just going to lean Saquon Barkley. He's super safe. He moved to Philadelphia this season, for those of you who don't know. Going to be the running back 1 there. Going to be great. He's going to be a really solid player, perform at a high level, and be someone that I'd be really confident in. So if he's your RB1, especially getting him at the end of the first, I think that's great. We'll saw Garrett Wilson go. Now it's a little interesting. It's tempting to take Jonathan Taylor here. It's a little risky. I know I'm one of the people that was burned by Jonathan Taylor being injured 2 years ago, so it's tough for me to lean that way. But I don't want to reach on a guy like Devontae Adams or Chris Olave, Puka Nacua. This would be a bit of a reach for. And if I'm gonna take a running back, it just seems really easy here that I would definitely go Jonathan Taylor. So I'm gonna do that. We've got our 2 running backs. We're probably gonna just try and hammer out wide receivers and stuff going forward. A lot of receivers I still like, especially guys in these like middle rounds. I love getting guys like let's see. Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are great. Marvin Harrison, honestly, if he's my wide receiver 1, I'm totally fine with that. I think he's got a legit shot to finish as a top 5 wide receiver this season. I'm not going to stat it out like that, but I think Marvin Harrison's going to be a stud. I'm super excited about him this season. He's going to be awesome. So plenty of wide receivers that I'd be comfortable with as my wide receiver one, but I do feel like I probably have to take wide receiver next. If Laporta or Kelsey is available there, my next pick, I would consider that for sure. And I would probably consider taking Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts there as well. Um, it's kind of cool seeing where the quarterbacks are going right now. If you guys remember about this time last year, we were pretty much exclusively seeing quarterbacks, these top three quarterbacks, go at the end of the second round. It's nice, sort of, we saw that little bit of a shift back. We're getting them in the late third. I think there's a lot more of a reasonable location to be taking these guys. It's just, it's tough to get value out of quarterbacks when you're drafting them in the second round. You need them to put up not only quarterback one numbers, but they need to just lap the field. I know like Josh Allen pretty much was the only one who did that last season. Jalen Hurts finished as the quarterback two on the season. I had Jalen Hurts on a lot of leagues. It didn't feel like I had a huge edge over my opponents because of him, because it was just consistently good, not great. And it's just tough if you have one of those guys. You need them to perform at a high level like that if you're taking him in the second round. But the third round, I definitely like that. Um, Looking back at the draft board here, we've seen quite a bit of receivers go here. We saw Puka go right after I took Jonathan Taylor. Then we saw obviously Derrick Henry and Jacobs. We saw Adams, Evans, Diggs, Etienne, Travis Kelsey. Kelsey going at the end of round two. That's a bit of a reach to me. I think he's more of a late round three guy this season. If you want to take him as the tight end one, I don't have any problem with that. Obviously, Laporta is great. There's a lot of tight ends I like though this season. I think it's going to be. It's always scary to say that because it's really tough for there to actually be tight ends that produce at a high level. But like, obviously, we have Kelsey and Laporta. Andrews, if he's healthy, is going to be awesome. Evan Ingram's going to be a big part of the offense still. Trey McBride, he's got a legit shot to be a top three tight end this season. He showed that he can do that last year. I like Njoku. I like Kincaid this season. There's just a lot of tight ends. I don't really see myself taking one of these top two guys in most of my drafts this season unless they end up becoming a pretty significant value to me. So that's sort of where I'm leaning. Obviously, it's super early. We're going to see all these ADPs shift around quite a bit, but sort of how I feel about it right now. I think it's kind of makes a lot of sense to wait for like that fifth or sixth tight end off the board. Get yourself Trey McBride, get yourself Njoku, get yourself Kincaid, one of those guys. Get him way later. Just be really happy that you've got a solid asset and roll with that. Really interesting seeing James Conner go in round three. That seems like a very significant reach to me. It's not something that I would ever advocate for. I would definitely take Rashad White over him. I'd take James Cook over him. Achan for sure. I'd probably take Montgomery, Aaron Jones. A lot of running backs I would have taken over him just because I'm worried about Trey Benson being a legitimate threat for him. So there we go. We saw Laporta go. I won't be taking a tight end here in round three. Let's take a look at the wide receivers. A lot of wide receivers left here that I really like. If Drake London falls to me, I'm definitely interested there. Um, what I'm hoping, we're going to get more information over the course of the offseason, but it is possible that maybe something popped up with Kirk Cousins in his rehab. Maybe the Falcons are a little bit more worried about him returning to full health than they initially were, and if that's the case, maybe that would explain why they took Michael Penix in the first round so high. If that's the case, I would be much more concerned about Drake London. But as it stands right now, Drake London's the wide receiver one for Kirk Cousins. I think he could very easily be a fringe top 10 wide receiver this year. So hopefully he makes it to me. I do actually kind of think I prefer Marvin Harrison to him. So I think I'm going to take Marvin Harrison. And if I don't get Drake London next, like the only way I'm going to be super upset after this is if the next two picks are Drake London, Jalen Hurts, which is certainly possible. Let's see, this guy, he's got a receiver already. Yeah, I'm going to do Marvin Harrison. I'm just super stoked about him. I think he's going to be a legit top 10 wide receiver. Obviously, upside to be a top 5 guy. We've seen rookie wide receivers come into the NFL and perform at a high level right away several times over the last several years. He is that dude. He can be that good for you, and I think he's going to be a guy that just gets leaned on right out of the gate for Arizona. So super excited about him. So Drake London went. Hopefully Jalen Hurts doesn't go as this next pick here. One other thing I'll note too is obviously with Jalen Hurts, I already took Saquon Barkley as my first round pick. It doesn't scare me to have both of those guys. I think the Eagles offense is going to be really solid this season. I know it's a pretty heavy investment in the Eagles doing that, but Jalen Hurts is going to give me such a big edge here, and I don't see a huge value at a lot of these other positions. Like I like Ayuk and Debo, but it's tough for me to advocate taking those guys right now with so much up in the air in terms of them getting traded. I just get a rock solid guy on Jalen Hurts there. I've got my running backs locked in. I've got my wide or quarterback locked in. Now I can just build out wide receivers, build out a tight end, find a tight end somewhere, and feel really good about my roster. So I like where we're doing, what we're at right now. And we just saw Lamar go right after. I would definitely prefer Jalen Hurts to Lamar, and getting him one pick before that, that feels pretty good. So now as we're looking, we're definitely not taking a quarterback. Um, Start looking here. Probably looking to get a receiver with our next pick, maybe a tight end. If a guy like Trey McBride's available, I would certainly consider taking him. Um, Other than that, though, we're 17 picks away, so we got a ways to go. I would be comfortable taking Tank Dell here for sure. Trey McBride, I'd be super stoked about. C. Higgins in the fifth round at the end of the fifth is certainly something I'm comfortable doing. Malik Neighbors, I don't see myself drafting a ton of him. I do believe he's an elite wide receiver, but being drafted to New York, it's just a little scary. They're going to have Daniel Jones back. It's just not going to be a good offense. I think Malik Neighbors will be fine. I haven't sounded out the Giants yet, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm expecting out of him, but it's just going to be tough for that offense to perform at a high level. I don't think there's a lot of ceiling there unless he just takes a lot of screen passes to the house or something. So I'm scared of that. I don't think I really want to be targeting Malik Neighbors too much this season. But we'll see. It could get priced in. He is the wide receiver one for a team, and the offense could be better than we expect it to be. So I get why he's going there, but it's just a little scary for me. So outside of that, looking at the receivers here, let's see. Amari Cooper at the at ADP of 74 right now. I gotta believe that's gonna change. That seems like way too good of a value. He's too good of a player for that to stand up to where it is right now. Um, Let's see, what else could we be looking at here for wide receiver? A lot of other receivers I like actually down here. We get into this area. I think, for example, I love Jaden Reed this season. I think he's going to be rock solid. Christian Kirk, honestly, going to be undervalued again. He's probably going to lead the Jaguars in targets. I like Brian Thomas, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be just an alpha wide receiver for them right away. Lad McConkey, I think he's got a shot to be the rookie wide receiver that leads the NFL in targets this season outside of Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. So I guess third of the rookie receivers. Um, yeah, a lot of fun options here. But I think obviously 6 picks away, probably looking if there's a tight end. If Trey McBride's still there, never mind. I won't do it because I would in a normal circumstance, but I'm not going to take Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride. That's just a little bit too much exposure to the Cardinals for me. So I'm pretty much locked into a receiver here unless there's a running back that's just screaming a value to me. Nobody really stands out though, so I think when it gets to us, we're probably looking at T. Higgins. That doesn't scare me at all. If we get T. Higgins and then Tank Dell as our wide receiver 3, I would feel really good about that team. Let's see, who else could we talk about? Um, so we saw David Njoku go at the end of round 5. A little early. I obviously wouldn't take him over Trey McBride, but I do think Njoku's awesome. If you just look at how well he performed at the end of last season, I know a lot of that was with Joe Flacco, and the Browns did go about adding Jerry Jeudy to the roster, so they're going to be a little bit more spread out. Well, that's a bummer. Okay, so we just saw T. Higgins go right before us. Um, we could do Malik Neighbors, but something about just having 2 rookies there seems a little scary. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna do Neighbors. It feels weird, but looking at the receivers there, if I get Tank Dell as my wide receiver 3, that's great. But I'm still a little bit worried about the injury. Obviously, Stephon Diggs coming back, that's scary. Or coming to Houston, I do think Tank Dell is probably the one who's off the field in 2 wide receiver sets. So those are just plays where he can't be getting a target because he's not on the field. But regardless, I'm still taking Tank Dell here. I love Tank Dell. He's a great player. Going to be a great offense. So I really like this start. We've got a bunch of really young wide receivers, Neighbors, Harrison, and Tank Dell. That's really fun. It's fun to root for all 3 of those guys. Jalen Hurts, quarterback, is great. We've got Saquon and Jonathan Taylor. We're off to a really good start here. Having drafted a quarterback super early, we're not going to be taking a second quarterback this draft. There's no reason to do that. There's going to be plenty of options on waivers. So we don't even need to look at that. I do think it's a good time for us to start considering the running back position with our next couple picks. We've got 2 rock solid ones, so we're great there, but it gives us an opportunity to take some upside shots. Maybe we want to get one more rock solid guy as like a a flex option. So if we can get a guy like David Montgomery or Brian Robinson, even Jonathan Brooks, they won't be there when we get to our next pick. But Najee is great. Nick Chubb's going way too late in drafts right now, as is Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert, to those of you who don't remember, was the running back 2 in fantasy football last season. Nothing's really changed there. They won't have Jeff Wilson in the fold. They drafted Jalen Wright in the 4th round. It's going to be Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Obviously, there's significant risk with both those guys in terms of injury, but I think that you're looking at, honestly, a really solid value in Raheem Mostert if he can stay healthy. So him going this late is just ridiculous to me. He's going to be the guy that when they get to the goal line is going to get put on the field and probably going to score 10 touchdowns again this season if he can stay healthy. So we saw David Montgomery go. I still love David Montgomery this season. If you guys remember last season, I was super excited about him. Really felt like he could be one of the most valuable picks in drafts last year, and he kind of ended up being that. He was a really rock solid player. Scored, I want to say, 13 touchdowns last season. He was awesome. He was great to have. And I think he's going to be pretty much in that same role this season. Obviously, I would expect a little bit more involvement out of Jahmyr Gibbs compared to last year, but I do like David Montgomery again this season. He's going to be a guy that I could certainly see having on a lot of my teams. We saw George Kittle go, Calvin Ridley go. Calvin Ridley we saw slip in this draft all the way to pick 70. I think that's about right. I know his ADP is a lot higher than that, but I'm just not a believer in this Titans offense. They have 2 running backs that they like. I think they're going to try and run the ball quite a bit. I just don't see myself drafting Calvin Ridley. It's going to be a low volume, low accuracy offense. Not something that I'm looking for my fantasy wide receivers. And there's just actually plenty of mouths to feed as well. You've got DeAndre Hopkins still there, Treylon Burks is still there, Chig Okonkwo. Like I said, the 2 running backs, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Just a lot of mouths to feed for an offense that's not going to be putting up a whole lot of points. We saw Jordan Love go here in round 7. I do want to talk about Jordan Love. I think he could very easily end up being one of the most valuable draft picks at the quarterback position. There's just so much talent around him, and he looked fantastic to me last year. I truly believe he could end up being one of the perennial top 5 to 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's that good. I really do like him, and I'd be super excited about having him if I want to wait at wide receiver or wait at quarterback in drafts. I think he's a great guy to target. Looking at the tight end position here just to see what's there, we've sort of missed out on the wave of guys that I'd be interested in. It's tough when you're drafting at the end of the draft or end of the draft order. You wait so long in between picks, so we're probably not going to take a tight end here. I don't want to reach and take Kyle Pitts. That really sucks. I wanted Jaden Reed with my next pick, but so we just lost Jaden Reed. I'm going to take Najee. I like Najee quite a bit here. Getting him in round 7 or round 6, round 7. That's really solid to me. He's going to be a guy that's going to fall in the end zone again. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's a good player. And he's just a guy that I do expect to have a solid year again. Probably like a low end or high end to mid tier running back 2. But getting him as my running back 3 is really solid. Makes me really comfortable with my running back room. Now, looking at this, nothing that I'm super excited about. Terry McLaurin is the guy that I'm looking at probably, but I think I'm going to go Deontay Johnson. Just a nice, safe PPR guy, a guy that I can play in my flex spot. He'll be a guy that's going to get a ton of targets, should be super valuable for the Panthers, and he'll probably end up being just what Adam Thielen was, being that safety valve for Bryce Young in an offense that's not going to be very good. So I like Deontay Johnson quite a bit. I think he could easily be, honestly, a value in fantasy drafts this season because people are going to be so turned off by the fact that he's a Carolina Panther now. So we saw Jordan Addison go after I took Deontay. I'm worried about Jordan Addison here. It's really tough for rookie quarterbacks to support multiple weapons. We know that if you're the rookie quarterback or if you're Sam Darnold playing, you're going to be heavily targeting Justin Jefferson. And on top of that, a lot of the fantasy value for Jordan Addison last season came from touchdown production, and it's just really rare that you see rookie quarterbacks come in and lead high-octane offenses and put up a lot of touchdowns. It's unheard of for a rookie quarterback to throw for 30 touchdowns. You're probably going to need that out of the passing offense in Minnesota if you want Jordan Addison to be a high-level performer. Obviously, TJ Hawkinson, he is going to miss some time recovering from that injury, so maybe for the first couple of weeks you're looking at good production out of Jordan Addison, but I want guys that are going to be peaking over the back half of the season. I don't think that Jordan Addison fits the bill, so even though I think Addison's a really good player, definitely someone I like just in from an NFL standpoint, someone in Dynasty I'd be excited about. He's not someone that I'd be drafting a lot of here. We saw Aaron Rodgers go here in round 9. I don't know. It's a little early for Aaron Rodgers for me. I think there are a lot of other quarterbacks I'd prefer. I would prefer Justin Herbert. I'd prefer Probably Kirk Cousins, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. I would prefer actually like all these guys over Aaron Rodgers. So I know he's a name, he's fun, but like Tua is going to be solid again. He's a value as always, just because he's being drafted so late. He's got the potential to be a top 10 quarterback any given week. Jaden Daniels, just with that rushing upside, has got a legit shot to be awesome for fantasy. Caleb Williams, so many weapons around him. Quarterback one in the number one overall pick in the draft, could easily be a good player. Just a lot of quarterbacks that I'd um, prefer to take over Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is really going to end up on any of my teams this year. Okay, so looking at the board here, we are going to look at tight ends. We got 20 seconds. None of these tight ends really excite me. I think we could easily just take Dalton Schultz and be okay with that later. Looking at the wide receivers, Keon Coleman is someone that I like. Xavier Worthy is fun too. Looking at the running back position, I think I'm going to take Gus Edwards. He's going to be a really solid touchdown producer. The Chargers really didn't address the running back position in the draft very heavily. They took one guy in the fourth round. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to demand touches in that offense. We know that J.K. Dobbins is going to be coming back from that injury. We'll see. I'm rooting for him. J.K. Dobbins is a super fun player, but Gus Edwards is probably going to score 10 touchdowns again in the season. He's a good player, actually. He's got over 5 yards per carry over the course of his career. And having him as my RB4, I feel really solid about that, and I don't really feel like I need to draft any more running backs. Obviously, I could. There's always the opportunity to take some dart throws. One thing that I wanted to like remind myself of for this season, before I space on that, though, I want to make sure I actually draft the right player here. Okay, looking at tight end, Brock Bowers is interesting, but I'm just generally hesitant to draft rookie tight ends, especially in an offense that I'm not excited about. So looking at the receivers here, I think, honestly, I'll take the dart throw on Marquise Brown. He's got a shot to be the wide receiver one in Kansas City, especially if we see Rashee Rice suspended for any significant amount of time. There are reports floating around that Rice could be suspended for up to half the season. If that happens, you're looking at a really good value out of Marquise Brown there. So I think especially if making him my wide receiver 5, I think that's totally solid. But yeah, talking about some running back dart throws, and yeah, one of the things I wanted to remind myself of, and I think it's something that we don't do enough of just as like a fantasy football community, is whenever there's sort of unknowns surrounding a backfield that we know is going to be a good offense, those are just absolutely positions or dart throws to take at the end of drafts. You think about last season, they Miami Dolphins backfield, we knew there was going to be value there, but between Jeff Wilson, Raheem Mostert, and Devon Achane, they were all going super late in drafts, sometimes going undrafted even. And the fact of the matter is, even if you don't know which one of those guys is going to be the one that produces at a high level, you know there's going to be fantasy value there. So it just makes way too much sense to take a player there. So like an example of that would be like I was going to mention Jerome Ford. We know Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb probably going to be both very involved over the course of the season. We don't know what Nick Chubb's going to look like coming back off his injury. It makes a lot of sense to take a dart throw on Jerome Ford late in the draft. If things bounce right, you've got yourself a really solid player. Another example of that would be Chase Brown and Zach Moss. The Bengals really didn't address the running back position. We know that there's going to be fantasy value there. Like Joe Mixon has always been fantasy relevant despite not being super efficient. There's going to be production out of the running back position in Cincinnati, and because of that, it makes a lot of sense to look there. Trey Benson is another one that I'm super excited about, actually, if you want to take a dart throw at a running back. Just someone that I think could be legitimately good. And wow, the tight end position got bad quick. Okay, we'll go Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet's probably the best option there. It's definitely going to be the weakest part of this team, but that's totally fine. There are plenty of streaming options if you want to go that route. Outside of that, looking at some players here. Looking at the receivers left, I do like guys like Demario Douglas, but because I've got so many like top-heavy guys, I like taking guys with more ceilings. So I think you could consider a guy like Jameson Williams. I know it's super late in his career to be waiting on that breakout, but I do think he still has a chance to do it. Curtis Samuel in Buffalo is someone that I'm actually excited about as well, and actually that's probably what I'm leaning towards. But if Trey Benson's still there too, that's an interesting pick. I think he's got a shot to be super fantasy relevant, especially because if James Conner misses time, which he's certainly capable of doing, he's going to be a rock solid player. Same thing with Blake Corum, a good player, going to get a lot of production if Kyren Williams happens to miss any time, and even if he doesn't, I do think he'll still see the field some. So couple running backs there I'm interested in, but I think I've got enough running backs that I'm probably going to look and take Curtis Samuel here. I just feel really good about my wide receiver room after that. I would consider taking a tight end as well here. Part of me kind of thinks that a guy like Jonnu Smith could be fantasy relevant in Miami. Tyler Conklin's got a shot, kind of a draft day winner, just because we didn't see the Jets address the tight end position. So it's going to be Tyler Conklin as a starting tight end in New York. We know that Aaron Rodgers historically likes throwing to his tight ends. There's at least an opportunity there. Hunter Henry could easily be the number one target in the Patriots offense if you want to look there. Between Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, I bet one of them ends up being fantasy relevant, so you could take the dart throw there. Noah Fant, they signed him to a 2-year extension. They brought in a new offensive coordinator out of UW, University of Washington. They're probably going to be a little bit more pass-heavy than they were in the past, at least utilizing the tight ends more. They also lost Will Dissly and Colby Parkinson, so Noah Fant's kind of alone in that tight end room. There's an opportunity here for Noah Fant to take a step forward. So it's worth noting if you want to. And then Isaiah Likely as well is a nice dart throw late in drafts too if you want to go that route. All right, looking here, gonna take Trey Benson. Just he'll be my dart throw at the running back position. He's a guy that I definitely think could be a high-end performer, even if James Conner doesn't get hurt. And if James Conner does, which he always does, he's going to miss some time. There are going to be several weeks over the course of the season where Trey Benson's going to be really solid for you. Looking at the receiver position here, I do like Rashid Shaheed quite a bit. I think he's got an opportunity to take another step forward with a little bit more familiarity with Derek Carr. He's a really solid player. Definitely seems to operate as like the primary deep threat for New Orleans, so I like him quite a bit. We could certainly do that. We could take another tight end as well if we wanted to, if we want to be able to play around with playing matchups, but I think Cole Kmet I would just prefer every week over a guy like Tyler Conklin, so I'm probably going to take another receiver or a running back. Algier is always a solid handcuff option if you wanted to go that route, but I think I'll take another wide receiver here. I think I'm going to go Rashid Shaheed. Awesome. So yeah, I won't make you guys sit through the next two picks. That'll just be a kicker and defense. I can't look at the NFL schedule yet, so there's no point in having a real opinion for early season defenses, and then kickers, whatever, they don't matter. Get rid of them in your leagues. So, a lot of fun here. First mock draft of the season. I think it actually turned out pretty well. Our team ended up being Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor at running back. We've got Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, our starting 2 wide receivers. Cole Kmet, probably the weak point of our team, is our starting tight end. And then at the flex, we've got Tank Dell. And on the bench, we've got Najee Harris, Gus Edwards, and Trey Benson at the running back position. And we've got Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, Curtis Samuel, and Rashid Shaheed at the wide receiver position. So really like the roster here. You can see I ended up with 7 wide receivers and only 5 running backs. That's especially because I took the 2 running backs super early in the draft. Sort of felt like I could just sort of lean heavily on those 2 guys. I'm banking on both Saquon and Jonathan Taylor to turn out well, and if they don't, then my team's going to struggle. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to be super worried about the running back position beyond that. And then obviously Jalen Hurts let me only take 1 quarterback. So overall, I like the team quite a bit. I'd probably give this like a B+. Feel really good about it though. The weak point's going to be the tight end position, and there's obviously just a lot of risk surrounding my wide receivers too. My top 2 wide receivers being rookies, along with Tank Dell at the flex. There's some concern there, but I think I got some nice stability at the position too, getting Curtis Samuel and Deontay Johnson. I'm on the bench. Those are guys that I'm really confident in at least being valuable PPR assets. So I like the team. If you guys like the team or don't like the team, let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you guys have done any mock drafts or anything, feel free to ask me questions or anything. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a lot more of these. I'll be getting my rankings out and doing some like top 10 videos as well going forward, so stay tuned for those. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any videos over the course of the rest of the offseason and during the NFL season, there's going to be several videos a week coming out all the way through August, and then we'll do 3 or 4 a week during the course of the regular season as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys want to make sure you don't miss any of that, just make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell. I've got a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers before the NFL season kicks off. We're at like 970-ish right now, so we really can get there. Help me out, just get us there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's been a goal of mine for a long time. So, and then obviously if you're subscribed already, just give the video a thumbs up. That's how you can help as well. So I appreciate all you guys. It's been a lot of fun, and with that, I'll catch you next time. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.